Hey, we are glad that you are tuned in here to listen. Get your cup of coffee and stick with us because we've got some very, very important information coming up as school is getting started in the sports season in our schools. And let's welcome Dr. Meltsakos.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Good morning. Thank you for coming in today. Will you tell us who you are and what you do and how you came to be in Sulphur Springs?
Well, all right. So my wife and I, we've been here a little bit over a year now. We moved from San Antonio. We're kind of down there and, my wife was pregnant at the time, and so we were kind of looking around at kind of options, and there was a position in Sulphur Springs for sports medicine, so we kind of looked into that. And I do general orthopedics as well, and originally from a smaller town. And my wife said that let's kind of move out of the city, and so when we came up here, we saw the town, and she liked the town, and the position was a kind of perfect fit because had the small town had a great opportunity to help in the community with sports, and that's kind of really where I was like, this is an awesome opportunity because I get to work in both sides of orthopedics, the general orthopedic side where I get to work with some of our older athletes who might want knee replacements and things, as well as our younger athletes who really didn't have much access to the sports medicine care locally, aside from Tyler and Dallas, which are a little bit of a trek.
We are so glad that you are here to serve our students. And as most Texas towns, we take football very seriously and all of our school sports. Now, you were in San Antonio.
Yes, ma'am.
But that doesn't mean you're originally from Texas?
No, I'm not originally from Texas. So I grew up in a small town on the border of New Hampshire and Massachusetts.
Okay.
And then throughout my training, kind of moved around a bunch. Ended up in San Antonio for my fellowship in sports medicine. And, we kind of fell in love with, the sports atmosphere and really loved kind of being here. And then we decided that we were going to stay, but then this opportunity came up, and it was perfect timing and just a really perfect move. So we could not be happier.
I'm so glad. And you were not necessarily connected with the Christus Health Center prior to coming here?
No, prior to coming here, I was not. It was with a private group. So.
Okay. Well, we're extremely pleased, and especially right now for you to come in, as yesterday, first day of school, and we've got a game or two tonight, and football season starting up.
Oh, we hit the road running.
That's right.
It's an exciting year, especially coming after last year. It was great that we were able to have football, but having this year a more structured, more regular season, I'm excited for the guys to get out there and play in front of a crowd this year.
I know.
And hopefully have a wonderful season.
Now, I'm going to be asking you about your practice and how it serves not only Sulphur Springs but county school athletes, especially right now with our sports clinic starting up, but that you also go to scrimmages and games, and you have a staff that helps try to cover all this.
Yes, ma'am. So we have a staff that includes myself, Christopher Lutz, who is a physician assistant, and then I have Kyle Lamar, who's our director of kind of sports medicine for the kind of Sulphur Springs, this kind of local ministry, as well as Tracy, who's one of our clinical athletic trainers. We do have another clinical athletic trainer. His name is Anesu. Some of the patients have met him. Unfortunately, Anesu, and he's a wonderful guy, was deployed to Iraq, so he's not with us right now, but he will be back hopefully at the beginning of January. And so what we do is we, during the football season in particular, we kind of split up coverage of the games so that we can get all of our local home games kind of covered, including Sulphur Springs, Mount Vernon, Quinlan, Commerce, just to name a few of the schools that we try to make sure that we have some sideline coverage for any game time injuries.
And not necessarily just in the Sulphur Springs district of play.
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
We cover some 3A schools, 2A schools. Anybody who's local or any athlete from 7th grade onward that wants to come into these Saturday clinics is more than welcome. It's not just isolated to the football players either. The concept is during the fall there are typically more injuries, and the games are on Friday nights, but we start up all sports in the fall, so volleyball, cross country, and even the off-season athletes are more than welcome to come visit us at the clinic on Saturdays.
That's good to know. So starting this Saturday, August 21st, between 9 and 11, and every Saturday through
November 13th.
Okay. You can visit the sports medicine clinic if you are an athlete 7th grade through 12th grade.
Yes, ma'am. And you know, if there are any collegiate athletes in the area that want to come to the clinic, we can
Okay,
kind of do
and
that.
collegiate athletes too. That is good to know. So, what if you examine a student there and they need an X-ray, MRI, or something like this? And what kind of cost is there?
So for the imaging, if a student has school insurance, the cost is free to the athlete. The X-rays are done in the clinic. So the sports medicine clinic is the same clinic which we run our regular orthopedic clinic out of at 103B Medical Circle Drive.
Okay.
So we have an X-ray in there. So all of those are easily attainable. If an MRI is needed, we can order that at the same day as well. And the cost of that imaging would be free to the athlete.
And did you say if they have school insurance?
Yeah. So what we do is our student athletes come in and we kind of get them kind of facilitated with that. So
Okay.
we have a zero balance program
Okay.
with student athletes.
That is very good to know. So, the scope of your work in orthopedics, and which lends over to sports medicine, what are all the kinds of things that you practice?
Oh, we do a lot of things. So in addition to sports medicine in and of itself is a subspecialty within orthopedics. And so what it is it's an additional year of training beyond a general orthopedic training, which most of us do some sort of additional training. In sports, where it's focusing on the athlete as a whole, so just treating an athlete, but also the ligamentous reconstruction of knees and shoulders and hips. Most of it's done through an arthroscope, which is a camera that can be put into a joint, but some of it's done open as well. And so that training allows us to kind of get people back to the active type of lifestyle that they kind of want to do. In addition to that, we also do a number of other orthopedic procedures. I cover general orthopedics as well, which means fracture care and broken bones in the wrist, the legs, etc., as well as joint replacements. And so one of the great new things that we have at the hospital too is the Mako robot assist for joint replacements, and that's been an exciting thing that we've kind of got up and running over the past 8 months or so.
How does that work?
It's actually a really cool design. So how it works is we get a CT scan of a patient's knee prior to surgery. And what that allows us to do is the CT scan gets formatted into a computer system that allows us to pre-plan all of the little cuts that we make on the bone to resurface the knee. And the thing is, when people hear robot, they think that I'm sitting in like a room like this, but really what it is it's a saw that's mounted to a robotic arm, and I'm in control of the saw, but the saw is pre-programmed within a certain plane for each of those cuts. So what we're doing is we're able to make those cuts just a little bit more precisely than using, say, a cutting block, which is a little metal block that has little slots in it that we would use before. So it's similar to a conventional knee, except for just a little bit more accurate. It's very helpful when people have severe arthritis too, because sometimes they get deformities in their knee, and it helps to take a little bit less bone when we're correcting it.
That is good to know. And many people listening, have, as you mentioned, arthritis that causes them pain. Many have had successful surgeries and are now able to get around and do things that they couldn't before, but there are many who are contemplating yet.
For sure. And, I think that there's a lot of kind of myths around knee replacements and hip replacements. As we kind of advance in orthopedics, 10, 15 years ago, people were spending several days in the hospital with a knee replacement. The recoveries were a little bit harder. It's still, don't get me wrong, it's a difficult recovery. It's an investment that people make, but usually people get to a point where, their pain and discomfort is something that kind of is overwhelming in their day-to-day life. And when we've tried a number of things and it doesn't work, then, a great solution is, to kind of replace that knee or that hip or even that shoulder too. And most of the time we can do it either same day for some individuals who have good health, or most people are leaving the hospital the next day. And what we do is we coordinate home health for them to kind of have a therapist and a nurse at home, and really get them moving as fast as possible. We really don't want people to have too much downtime, because we know that when people move earlier, they do better.
That is good to know. There's so many success stories, just people that I run across that I see up and going again, and I say, what happened? Well, I had my knee replaced.
It is remarkable to see, how quickly people do move. I mean, it's a big surgery, but people do very well, and they get back to doing the things they want to do pretty quickly. And it's certainly, that's like one of the most rewarding things, to get either a young athlete or some of our older athletes or older population back to doing the things they want to do. And for each target audience or population, where we have different goals, right? With an athlete, you're trying to get them back on the football field. With somebody who might be older, you want to get them back gardening or whatever it is that their passion is, whether it's back out in the pasture, or just some people just want to be able to clean their windows. So it's a great thing.
Do you see children?
Yes, I do see children. There's a lot of pediatric things that can go on, and so I do see children's pediatric patients. We treat most of them. Most of them I'm more than comfortable either putting in a cast. There are some operations that we'll do too. There are certain things that I usually will refer to the children's hospital, the pediatric deformities, significant trauma to growth plates. Those things are, that's why we subspecialize in certain things. But I usually don't just send them away right off the bat. I'll kind of have people come and explain to them why we're going to send them to Dallas for that, because that's usually the option to see somebody who's trained in pediatrics.
So a pediatrician would maybe see a child and refer them to your office?
Yes, ma'am. Or they come to the emergency department, and they'll have like a wrist fracture or an arm fracture. The majority of those are something that we kind of see in the clinic. We'll put into a cast and kind of do some fracture management for that. The majority of the pediatric injuries typically are fractures. So usually they get seen at one of our local ERs, whether it's the minor emergency center, the main ER here, or even in Winsboro, anywhere else. If anybody goes to see their primary care doc, they can also be referred in for that too. Some people's insurance doesn't require referrals, so they could also, come in kind of right off the street, so to speak.
We do have excellent care in Sulphur Springs, and are thrilled to be able to say that to people who are moving here or considering to move here and wondering what sort of care they would have and not have to go to a bigger city. So Sulphur Springs is a good center for health care. I
think it's a great center for health care. I think we have a really solid base of not only primary care providers, but we have a significant amount of kind of specialty providers as well. Orthopedics being one, with a growing program here, and urology, pain management. It's a great place to be able to stay in town and get the care you need.
We have less than 1 minute to say the Sports Injury Clinic, Saturdays 9 to 11 at your office. Sports medicine clinic.
Orthopedics and sports medicine.
Okay.
9 to 11, starting this Saturday, the 21st through November 13th. It's a walk-in, first come, first serve. Any athlete from the 7th grade kind of through the end of high school there. You can come in. It's a free consultation, free x-ray and MRI if need be for that. And then we do have equipment there, such as boots, braces, and that kind of stuff that would be billed through secondary insurance.
Thank you for coming in today and sharing with us.
Thank you for having me.
And Dr. Meltsakos at 103B Medical Circle, is that correct?